My lazy husband thought he could get away with cheating on me. Guys, first of all, I'm the breadwinner. I'm the reason this lazy human being is not kicked out on the streets fending for himself. I'm sick of it. And then I found out he's using my hard-earned money to take his mistress on dates. Guys, I've had enough. I'm gonna do something diabolical.
If you would have asked me a few years back where I saw myself at the age of 29, it would not have been anywhere but here. And by here, I mean lied, manipulated, and used by the man that I once called the love of my life. Yes, that's the reality of it. The funniest thing is, I don't think I'm writing this post to tell you guys this, but to somehow find it in my heart to accept the harsh reality. Hey guys, my name is Jane, last name Parker, and me and my love are being used, betrayed, and humiliated in every way possible by my husband. Things were not always like this, no. Instead, life used to be no less than a fairy tale, I'd say. Oh. I met Jake during our college years. He was charming, with an easy smile that made my heart skip a beat. We were both young and filled with dreams. Jake was studying literature, and I was pursuing my passion for numbers and finance. Our worlds seemed different, yet complementary, or so I thought. He had his way with words, of course, one line from him, and I would swoon straight for 3 days. After graduation, we got married in a small ceremony that felt like the beginning of our forever. Jake, ever the aspiring writer, talked about his novels and short stories, while I landed a job at a reputable financial firm. We moved into our dream house, dreaming of a future where both our careers would flourish. I've always been a very logical person, but not when it comes to Jake. For some reason, I always believed in Jake and his career, even when it made no sense to anyone, and maybe not even to me. Soon, what I already knew but ignored for too long happened. Our new reality soon settled in. Jake's writing career did not take off as we hoped. He struggled to find his footing, which led to him staying home more than often. But of course, I didn't mind. True dreams take time to come true, and I was all for supporting him for as long as it took. Honestly, the things that we do for love, right? So, while I threw myself into my work, Jake took good care of the household chores and errands, I'll give him that. Months turned to years, though, and the weight of responsibility slowly shifted onto my shoulders. Bills would pile up, groceries needed to be bought, and Jake spent more time lounging on the couch, claiming that he was, quote, working on his masterpiece. You know, there's only so far you can run from the truth. So, no matter how much I persisted in our love, and how much I lied to myself, it was getting difficult and annoying for me to bear all the responsibilities alone. Soon, the love that we once had for each other was nowhere to be found, and before I knew it, our relationship changed from that of a husband and wife, equals to one another, partners for life, to that of a mother and an annoyingly lazy and entitled man-child. Jake would spend his days lounging around the house, claiming that he was brainstorming or just simply doing research for his book. I'd come home after a long day at the office, exhausted and looking forward to a quiet evening, only to find the house in disarray and Jake glued to the television set or playing video games. I remember this one particular instance when I had a huge project due at work. I was pulling late nights, trying to meet the deadline, and asked Jake to take care of a few things around the house. Just simple tasks, a bit of grocery shopping, the laundry, and I came home that Friday hoping for a clean house and a stocked fridge. Instead, I walked into a scene of chaos. The laundry was still in piles, the fridge was empty, and Jake was on the couch playing his little video game, acting as if he had not a care in this world. When I confronted him, he brushed it off, saying that he's been, quote, too busy, working on his book. I felt my frustration boil over, but I swallowed it, telling myself that I needed to be patient. After all, marriage is about supporting each other, right? I tried talking to him, pushing him to look for a job, any job, just to help out a bit. But Jake always had one excuse or the other. A rejection letter from a literary magazine, writer's block, you name it. And I, ever the supportive wife, nodded along, burying my frustrations deeper each day. However, the problem was that the support only seemed to flow one way. As time went on, Jake's lack of contribution became more and more apparent. Bills would start to pile up and our finances became tight. I asked Jake to at least get a part-time job to help out, but he always had an excuse. His writing on the verge of a breakthrough, a job would stifle his creativity, and so on. Well, one winter, our heating bills shot up, and I remember being genuinely worried about how we were going to manage the money. I worked extra hours just to cover the costs, while Jake continued to sit around, doing nothing to ease the burden. One night, after a particularly long day, I came home to find Jake ordered an expensive takeout meal. He said he was treating himself for a job well done on a chapter that he wrote. I couldn't believe it. Here I was, working my butt off to keep us afloat, and he was pampering himself with luxuries we could not afford. It wasn't just a financial strain. No, it was emotional. I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders alone. Jake would complain about his writer's block, expecting sympathy and understanding, but he never once asked how I was doing. My stress, my exhaustion, my struggles, they did not seem to matter to me. He was in his own little bubble, completely oblivious due to all his circumstances. We would rarely go anywhere. However, whenever we were invited to events or gatherings, Jake would either refuse to go, leaving me to make excuses for him, or he would come along and spend the entire time sulking or bragging about his upcoming bestseller. I felt embarrassed and isolated, constantly trying to cover for him to make sense, less of a burden than he actually is. Honestly, it's very difficult. Yet I was pivoting through it all. Now, no matter how many tantrums come from Jake's end, or how many responsibilities were thrown at me, I shouldered them all. But guys, the final blow. It came recently when I found out about his father. Yes, my darling husband has been cheating on me. His affair. It wasn't just the betrayal of our marriage. Wow. No, not the vows. It wasn't that hurt. It was the sheer audacity of it. I mean, here was the man who did nothing to contribute to our household, who lived off my hard-earned money, and he was out there spending it on another woman? I remembered finding a receipt for a fancy dinner, far beyond what we could afford, and realizing it was not for me. The realization, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd been working myself to the bone, and Jake had been squandering our money on his flings. I didn't directly come to this conclusion, no, even if it was in my face all this time. Looking back, I see the red flags I ignored. The late night working were actually night outs. The unexplained withdrawal from our accounts, the little lies that he pulled up until they formed a mountain of deceit. I've been so focused on keeping everything together and being the perfect wife that I had not even seen how one-sided our relationship had become. Even now, when I found the receipt, I did not accept it right away, that I've been made a huge fool of myself. See, I called the restaurant and acted as my husband's secretary, and confirmed if the bill was for a lady and my husband was already taken care of. Of course, I knew the answer already. The receptionist clearly confirmed that the bill was completely taken care of by my husband for both himself and the beautiful lady that he had had with him. My heart shattered as I realized how blind I had been, and how I had allowed myself to believe in a facade of love and partnership. I know I should have done so long ago, but I couldn't. However, now I'm going to cut my husband off for good and divorce him. I can no longer bear this anymore, not after this. However, this is not why I'm writing you guys. Since I discovered Jake's infidelity, all the love I had for him seems to have turned into this strong feeling of hatred. And I feel anger like I've never known before. I don't simply want to cut him off, I want him to pay for everything that he's done to me. Am I wrong for feeling this way? I don't think I care much about it, but still, and even if I decide to move ahead with my revenge plan, I have no idea what I should do. Hence, I'm posting this today, asking for help, so guys, please let me know what I should do. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Oh man, today's story is a wild one, but guys, I want to read this one comment from Mango Teeth 45. It says, OP, I can't be the only one who thinks your sob story is pathetic. It's clear you weren't just as much as fault for enabling Jake's laziness. You let him walk all over you, and now you're surprised that he cheated? Come on, get a grip. The whole revenge fantasy is sad. You're coming off as bitter and petty. Instead of wasting your time plotting of how to make him pay, maybe you should look in the mirror and figure out why you let yourself be treated like a doormat for so long. Your anger is not going to solve anything, it's just making you look desperate. Move on with your life and stop whining on the internet about how hard that you had it. Come on, no one forced you to stay with him, and now you're just looking for sympathy. Ugh, grow up, get over it. Alright guys, let me know if you agree with that comment or not down below in our comment section. Let's go ahead and jump into the first update, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you are enjoying today's story. Update number 1. Hey, it's been over a week and I honestly feel like it wasn't Jake's fault. It was I who was stupid all along, and I still am. I can't believe that even after learning the truth I wanted to let things go. Well, we'll see exactly how that came to bite me in the behind, however. Before that, thank you so much for all the support and kindness. I never expected such high engagement on my story, and I am more than grateful for the love and support you guys have shown me. There were also people who blamed me entirely for everything, and honestly it came as a shock. First, saying my story is pathetic and blaming me for enabling Jake is unfair. Yes, I stayed with him longer than I should have, but that does not excuse his actions. Relationships, those are built on trust and partnership. And I believed in him and our marriage. That doesn't make me weak or deserving of the treatment I got. Calling my desire for revenge, fantasy, and pathetic is pretty harsh. People process pain differently, and right now I'm angry. And I have every right to be because Jake betrayed our marriage, and I'm dealing with the aftermath. It's not about being bitter or petty, it's about acknowledgement of my feelings and deciding what to do next. Well, there were even comments that suggested I'm looking for sympathy, but that's not the case. I shared my story to find some clarity and maybe support from others who have been through a similar experience. Telling me to look into the mirror and implying I deserve this because I, quote, let it happen is just cruel. No one deserves to be lied to, manipulated, cheated on, and taken advantage of. Nevertheless, I don't think there's any point in justifying myself. No matter what you do or go through, you'll always be wrong in somebody's eyes. Anyways, many of you also suggested that I should turn to my friend in the desperate times that I'm in. And that's exactly what I did. In such difficult time, I could think of only one person, Laura, my best friend. I called Laura, my best friend since elementary school, to talk. Only heaven knows what a huge relief it was for me to learn that Laura was in town. Actually, after school, Laura shifted outside of the country for higher studies and has been there since. Thankfully, our bond has remained despite the distance. So, the moment I called her crying, she immediately rushed over and we sat on the couch. I poured out my heart. Laura listened, her face growing more furious with every word. Well, when I finished, she looked at me with a determined glint in her eye.
We can't let him get away with this. We have to teach him a lesson.
Laura suggested an elaborate plan where she would pretend to be interested in Jake and become his new girlfriend. The idea was to lure him in and then turn the tables, taking back everything that he had stolen from me. I think it was a pretty clever plan, and I knew it could actually work. But in my anger and hurt, I hesitated. I still loved Jake somewhere deep down, despite everything. I didn't want to hurt him as much as he had hurt me. I was conflicted, torn between my lingering feelings for Jake and my desire for justice. I told Laura that I could not go through with it. Yes, I wanted to take revenge, however, I wasn't ready to play with him yet. I said I need time to process everything and figure out what to do next. Laura, she respected my decision, though. She was pretty clear. It was a disappointment in her eyes. She promised to be there for me no matter what I decided, however. Destiny had something else in plan. A few days later, my resolve crumbled. I was driving home from work when I saw Jake out with another woman. They were at a cafe laughing and holding hands like we used to. My heart sank. It wasn't just one woman. Jake had been cheating on me with multiple women, and the realization had hit me pretty hard. This wasn't a one-time mistake or a fling. This was a pattern of betrayal. I felt a mix of sadness and anger and a sense of being utterly disrespected, so that night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head, every lie, every moment of doubt, and every time I had defended him. I realized that I've been living in denial, hoping that things would get better and that Jake would change. But the truth is he never would. He had taken my love and trust for granted, and it's time for him to face the consequences. So, after tossing and turning for the whole night, today I finally called Laura back. I told her I'm ready to move on with the plan. Laura, she was absolutely thrilled about it, and we immediately started to plan. Even though I'm determined to make Jake pay, I can't help but feel that this is the best course of action. I don't know. What do you guys think? Update number 2. Hey guys, the last time I updated, I told you guys that I decided to take Laura's help. It still feels pretty weird to me to use my best friend like that, but she just seems like the best shot that I actually have right now. Well, let me explain to you exactly what her plan is. The last time we met, which was about a week ago, she proposed that she could act like she was interested in him and date him, and I could use that to humiliate him or sue him for infidelity. However, there have been slight changes in the plan. Yes, the above plan was more than enough evidence to win in court. However, even with the evidence, I don't see much gain. What kind of alimony would a jobless person even give? Hence, we've decided to take away the only thing that he has, his fake face in front of our friends and his mistress in the house that we live in. Yes, my apologies, I had not mentioned it earlier, and it seemed like Jake contributed nothing at all to our marriage. Well, it's not entirely true, see. The house we live in belongs to him. It's a gift from his late mom. So yeah, that's what I want now. As I mentioned, there was only a slight change in the plan. Laura was going to pretend to be interested in Jake and become his new mistress, all while secretly working with me to take back what he stole. The plan has been set in motion. Laura started by casually running into Jake at places we knew that he would frequent. She charmed him effortlessly. Laura's beautiful, smart, and had a magnetic personality. Jake, being the fool he was, fell for it hook, line, and sinker. It was supposed to be, as Laura knew all his likes and dislikes from me. She knew everything about him, and he started spending more and more time with Laura, thinking he found himself a new little woman to manipulate. Oh, by the way, rich widowed women, yes. That's the part Laura's playing so that Jake can get more comfortable. I know. That's when I made Laura pay for dinner and dates. Jake must have started liking her more, thinking she might be the next golden chicken that could replace me. However, little did he know, Laura and I kept in constant contact planning our next move. She would tell me everything Jake said and did, giving us the upper hand. I'm both equally happy and sad to tell you guys that the plan is working better than we expected, because guess what my husband decided he wants to do now? Jake has started talking about divorce. That's right. He wants to be with Laura, and he thought he could get away with taking everything in the divorce. I knew Laura was good, dang good, but did not know that she was this good. And my husband was a selfish dog. Even if he didn't love me, I have been taking care of him for all these years. However, the moment he saw a prettier, wealthier version of me, he decides to kick me out. If I had any ounce of sympathy or pity for this man, it's long gone. I personally make sure that that man does not even get a place in hell itself. I want to leave him on the streets with nothing, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'll keep you guys updated on how the plan goes. Until then, goodbye. Update number 3. He proposed to her. Hey guys, it's been about 3 months since I last posted, and these past months have been very, very hectic. And I'm glad to tell you guys that I'm free of that man now. But yes, I never expected that he would propose to Laura. Nonetheless, he's out of my life now, so I couldn't care less. Let me walk you guys through it. Jake thought that he'd hit the jackpot with this smart, attractive woman showing interest in him. Little did he know he was falling into a trap. Jake starts spending every waking moment with Laura, and before long he was talking about leaving me. One night, while they were out at dinner, Jake decided to propose to Laura. He was convinced that he found someone who he truly appreciated. Laura played along perfect, acting thrilled and excited about their future. This was the moment that we've been waiting for. Jake told Laura that he wants to divorce me and start fresh with her. Laura, playing her part to perfection in the upcoming days, suggested that Jake temporarily put our house in her name to hide it from me during the divorce. She spun a tale about how I might try to take everything, and Jake, blinded by his infatuation and greed, agreed without hesitation. The next step, it was crucial. Laura had to convince Jake to sign legal papers that he thought would transfer the house to her name. We worked with a lawyer to draft documents that would instead transfer the house to me. It was all perfectly legal and relentlessly planned, and Laura had handed Jake the papers, explaining that it was just a precaution to protect his assets. Jake, thinking he was outsmarting me, signed it without even reading the fine print. A few days later, Jake decided it's time to break the news to me. He came home acting smug, confident, and told me he wants a divorce. He spun some story about how he had grown apart from me and, well, he found somebody new. I pretended to be devastated, playing the role of the heartbroken wife to perfection. Little did he know I was already aware of everything and had a plan in motion. Jake moved out that night, leaving me picking up the pieces of our broken marriage, but instead of feeling defeated, I felt elated and victorious. Laura and I had successfully pulled off our plan, and Jake was about to get the shock of his life. So, after proposing to Laura, Jake started making plans for their future together. He was riding high on his horse, thinking that he outsmarted me and secured his new life. Meanwhile, I was working with our lawyer to finalize the transfer of the home. The day Jake found out the truth was one of the most satisfying moments of my life, to be honest. He had come over to collect some of his things and divorce papers and was acting smug, thinking he pulled it on me. I handed him a copy of the legal documents along with divorce papers. He was confused. When he realized what we had done, signing the house over to me instead of Laura, his face went pale. He starts to sputter, trying to figure out how had this been happened, how he was bamboozled. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks, and he lost everything because of his own greed and arrogance. The look on his face was worth it when he realized that he had no home, no money, and no one to turn to. I kicked him out of the house, and he quietly left, which was to be expected because I knew he was still in delusion that maybe Laura would still take him in. Honestly, how thick was his brain? However, in the next few days, Laura broke off the engagement, revealing the truth. And a week after Jake left, I was finally starting to feel a sense of peace. I went to parties with Laura, who had been an incredible support, and we celebrated our victory, quietly, enjoying the satisfaction of justice served. But then, one evening, there was a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I peeked through the peephole, and to my surprise, I saw Jakey Wakey, standing right there. He looked disheveled, with a desperate look in his eyes. Part of me wanted to ignore him, but I decided to face him one last time. Seeing him like that stirred up a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and pity, strange enough. But I reminded myself of all the pain that he caused me, and this was the man who had betrayed me multiple times, and had taken my love and trust for granted.
Oh, Jane, I made a mistake, baby. Laura, she tricked me. I thought she loved me, but it was all a lie. I lost everything, baby. Please take me back. I'll change, I'll promise.
I looked him straight in the eyes, and for a moment I saw fear and regret. But I also saw the selfishness and arrogance that had led him to this point. Jake, he was not sorry for what he did. He was sorry for getting caught and losing everything. So I told him I could not care less, and with that I shut the door in his face. I heard him knock a few more times, calling my name in desperation, but I didn't dare open that door again. Eventually he left, and I stood there for a moment, feeling a sense of freedom.